Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter. Joining me today is Sandy Klowak. Sandy, how's it going?
It's going well.
Awesome. Glad to hear. And we're very pleased to be joined by Zach Frazier.
I'm the king of this shit because I always get the royal flush. I don't know if
that's good.
That felt appropriate. Yeah.
Great.
What was your inspiration for your tagline?
I was taking a shit and I was like, you know what? That'd be funny. I was trying to think of puns. That punniness was kind of a common one. I had another one I wanted to go with. I don't know if you know the band, the Silver Jews. They're like a 90s indie rock kind of group related to Pavement. If you know that band.
Yeah, for sure.
But one of their famous lines is, in 1984, I was hospitalized for approaching perfection. So that would be my alternate one.
Really stoked to have you here. So I stumbled upon one of your video essays, and this is just ended up being perfect timing because you did a video essay about Magic Mike, and you did an amazing exploration of masculinity, positive masculinity within the film, and it's also just a really heartfelt love letter to the film. And one of the things that you talk about that really kind of resonated with me was how it does a great job of exploring themes kind of subtly, and also it approaches character development through this natural approach to dialogue and conversation. And when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, I need to get him to watch Housewives with me. So I reached out, and I'm so happy that you could be here and join us for this. And it happens to be an episode that is heavily featuring Magic Mike live, Las Vegas.
Yeah. I was like, could he have known? Was this on purpose?
So going into this, what was your context for reality TV?
So I've watched a decent amount. I was a TV kid, born 1995. So, we watched a lot of television in my house, and I had two older sisters. One was 10 years older. The other was 4. So they, reality TV was on. Bachelor would be on sometimes, but it was mostly the trashy MTV VH1, love competition stuff, Rock of Love and Flavor of Love, I was raised on that kind of stuff. And then, I watched some of the early days of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, because I would, literally, I would watch everything, that's how much TV I watch. I jumped from Cartoon Network to True Hollywood Story episodes, and reality TV was part of the rotation. So I'm not unfamiliar with reality television. But for a while, once streaming kind of took over, I wasn't watching TV as much. I didn't need to channel flip to whatever was on. So I didn't gravitate towards reality TV until sort of recently, when I was making videos more commonly, as I'm not frequently doing that as much anymore. I wanted to make a video on The Bachelor specifically, because I kind of thought, I'm someone interested in polyamory, a relationship philosophy. And I was kind of interested in shows that explore people who, are having multiple relationships, but also have to choose one, whittle it down to monogamy. So I never fully ended up doing that, but I did watch 3 seasons of The Bachelor and took very detailed notes. So I was deep into that, and The Bachelorette. I watched one of those, but yeah.
That's a really interesting idea, because it after saying that, it seems obvious that it makes sense that you would be able to do a read of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette through a polyamorous lens, but not something that I had obviously thought of as the first place to go. So I'd definitely be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Maybe someday.
Yeah. Awesome. So we had a lot of Housewives episodes to choose from this week. We said we're going to talk about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and then I'm not sure if you caught Real Housewives of Miami or not, but awesome.
I watched it all. I'll do my homework.
Awesome. Did any of these kind of stand out to you as like more compelling than the others?
So I think Miami was the most cinematically interesting to me. In terms of the craft of like the shot composition, and like it was like kind of insane. I was like, these are like really like they use the depth of field and like tracking shots and transition. I know that's like a weird thing to focus on, but that one like was kind of compelling to watch in terms of just like how they're making it. But in terms of, I guess, like plot or characters, I think Salt Lake City had a lot going on. Not that Beverly Hills didn't, but I feel like Salt Lake City had a lot more to chew on. Maybe. Awesome.
Yeah, let's dive into Salt Lake City then. What were your highlights here? Actually, let's start with your first impressions of each of the characters that you were introduced with.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I'd say like in this episode, like the main characters are like Monica, Lisa, and Heather, right? Like they're the ones who have like the most going on. Like I know Whitney, has like her child's birthday party and a jewelry reveal, but those are kind of just backdrops to other people's drama. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to think. Monica is a bit kind of immature, like especially in her fight with Lisa, like they're going at each other a bit childishly, like the way she's mocking her. That's kind of how like I know Monica, like I'm sure the stuff with her mom is real and important to her, but she can be catty, it feels. Heather sorry.
No, it's interesting that you kind of zoned in on the word childish, because it like that definitely characterizes her approach to this. But I think like one of the strongest themes throughout Salt Lake City this season and especially in this episode is this like it's kind of looking at the at motherhood and the relationship between like mother and their child through a lot of different like lenses throughout this season, and Monica's story, it is like central to that. Like she has such a complicated relationship with her mother, and to see her butting heads with Lisa and really regressing into like this childish state, I thought was a really interesting kind of manifestation of like how she handles conflict being so tied to her relationship that she has with her mother, because that's the person that she's used to like having to fight all the time. So she reverts to being the child that is fighting her mother, and I found it really interesting to see that crop up when she was fighting with Lisa.
So the fight, like I didn't see the previous episode, but I saw some footage and where they put Heather's head over a plant, which is a classic edit. Was the fight similar? Like the one that Lisa and Monica have, and the one Monica and her mother have?
It's not super similar. So we're trying to really get a read. Monica's a brand new housewife, so we don't have the same context that we have of the other women on this cast. We're just kind of getting to know her, and she's getting an edit that is like very sympathetic. It's painting her as very honest, and her conflict with her mother like stems back from when she was a child. She's got like severe abandonment issues, and her mother just like comes across like very much like a narcissist. So there's a lot of like deep-seated conflict that her and her mother have, and the main like fight that we see this season between Monica and her mother revolves around Monica bringing her mom to an event that Angie hosted, this Greek Easter that she had, and her mother not standing up for her in a fight, and being like apologetic on Monica's behalf, and just like not being her defender. And so that's another like conflict that has a lot more context within their relationship and their past, and you can see how it might be something that you could blow off if it was kind of a one-time thing, but it clearly doesn't seem to be. It seems to be like a pattern, and that's what Monica's really upset about.
Yeah. Now, do we think Lisa has any grounds whatsoever to say the things she's been saying in terms of like how she thinks Monica is using this abuse to abuse? Is there any, truth to that? Do we think?
I mean, the sense that I get, just like my personal reaction, and obviously this is very much colored by the lens that the editors, present the content with. But it seems to me very authentic. Like Monica comes across as very authentic, not just in this conflict, but also, the spectrum of housewives that I have seen, present this image of themselves in front of the camera. It varies from being like extremely phony to very authentic. And Monica is definitely on the authentic side of the spectrum in terms of how she comes across. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I feel like we haven't seen enough of her to make a final judgment on that. But her mother also seems very inauthentic, and reminds me a lot of a housewife, Ramona Singer, who is very much a selfish, self-centered, narcissist personality.
Okay.
Did you have any other highlights from this episode?
Let's see. One thing I just wanted to comment real quick. I was kind of like not taken aback, but it was just like kind of jarring, like the talking head sections, like how like it felt like a green screen, I think. And like especially definitely. Monica, she's wearing this extravagant like ball gown almost with these puffy shoulders and like she's all made up. It was just like I feel like when you watch like The Bachelor, that's where I'm coming from, right? And it's like those, I feel like they try to make those sort of authentic and maybe in the moment at least appear that way. And so it's interesting to just be like, oh no, this is just, they're in a different place. They've had their own makeup done for this specific shoot. That was just kind of a fun, jarring little bit of the show. I'm trying to think. Lots of Dr. Pepper shout outs in this one. I'm appreciative of that.
I was trying to figure out what was going on with that.
Yeah, like even at the jewelry thing, I'm like, what? Who's serving Dr. Pepper at this kind of event? I mean, the kids, it makes sense.
Is there caffeine in Dr. Pepper? If it's caffeine free, then that might explain it, because Salt Lake City would have us like a big Mormon population there.
There's caffeine in that. Not a lot. Probably like 50 milligrams, but per can.
Yeah. Weird.
I guess like Heather was interesting to me in that, like coming in without context, I was like, is she Mormon? No, she's not. She's not Mormon. She's like happy her daughter isn't doing Mormon things, but she really cares what Lisa's doing. So that was kind of an interesting conflict. It kind of reminds me of, as an ex-Catholic, I grew up, raised in Catholicism or whatever. It like, I do have these moments where like someone is like, who like says they're Catholic and doesn't do it right. I'm like, that's not actually how you should be doing it. And it's like, what do you care? You don't even believe in God. Like, so I kind of get her. I get where she's coming from, but it was interesting to see that that conflict happening. I don't think it was like super explored in this episode. There's like she didn't get to go to the brunch. That was kind of the big thing, but they seem fine. It didn't blow up or anything. So that was good. Yeah,
it seemed like we almost got a little bit of resolution to that conflict between Heather and Lisa at Whitney's party, or it seemed like there was a little bit of peace made. But yeah, the relationship that Heather has with the Mormon Church is very like complicated, and she's left the church, but still very much concerned about the rules of what it means to be a Mormon and what it means to not be a Mormon, and the fact that Lisa doesn't really care that much, and like is able to get away with not adhering to those rules as much as Heather feels like she should is really interesting.
Did Heather do something wrong and get kicked out, or she just left of her own accord?
Yeah, she left. Sandy, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that she left when she divorced her husband. And I think that her family and all her support network really sided with him and the church. And I think that's where it comes from, but I'm not entirely sure.
Kicked out? Did she get kicked out when she got divorced because you can't get divorced? I can't remember, but it's definitely possible. Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I know that. So Monica similarly
definitely got kicked out.
She was raised in the church, and I think she got kicked out, but her affair partner and her husband didn't get kicked out, even though they divorced. I'm not really sure how that all works.
Oh, God.
Shockingly, the women get the worst end of the stick.
Yeah.
In Mormonism?
Very shocking.
What?
I
know. My God.
Did you have any other highlights in Salt Lake City, Zach?
Oh, wait. Well, two lines I kind of thought were funny. Monica's saying to Heather, like, literally ever since I said Lisa's materialistic, and Heather's like, she's ignored you? And it's like, yeah, well, don't do that. And then the very end of the episode, I didn't watch to the very end, but like for the next episode, I think Heather's asking Mary, like, do you think I look inbred? And then she says, I do.
That's a beautiful clip.
Have fun next episode. That'll be good.
You can be there too,
and
Zach.
That's coming from.
You can watch it for the rest of the season, for the rest of your life too.
Oh my God. We'll see.
And that's coming from Mary, who is married to her like step grandfather. So like she does have some authority on like what it means to be inbred, I guess.
I mean, it's step, I guess, but like still.
We got no Mary this episode. I'm sad for Zach.
Yeah, like you were talking about it last episode. I'm like, who the fuck is Mary? I was like, oh, she's in like a flashback saying someone flew out of a car and died. And I'm like, what?
She's got some sound bites. She doesn't like to go to any events, and she just had a fight with Whitney, so I guess she was not eligible for being involved in these.
She couldn't come to Bobby's party. She was gonna say some weird shit.
Exactly.
Sandy, what were your highlights from Salt Lake City?
Okay, Salt Lake City, I had a slow start. I wasn't too impressed with the episode. My husband was in the room. He never watches with me, but he was playing his computer game on the couch because we have a TV now in our living room. New, exciting development over here. Ooh. So I was kind of disappointed because he was sort of paying attention. I'm like, this one's not really as good as usual. But at the end, the fight with Monica and Lisa really made it great. And that was throughout, but there was a build. So they started fighting at the roller rink, which I have to say, roller rink is a weird place to have a Hawaiian themed party, like no windowless, dark pit of a place. So that kind of freaked me out a bit. So, but yeah, the build up with Monica and Lisa was amazing. As you said, Zach, Monica is extremely childish, and she seems to know exactly how to get under the skin of someone like Lisa and perhaps her own mother. So that was really fun to watch. Lisa got in some jabs. Can't remember when, but she said something like, no one wants to be your mother or something. And that was pretty harsh.
Oh, yeah.
So they were going low. I did not appreciate the age shaming that Monica was doing to Lisa, but otherwise thoroughly enjoyed that fight. Yeah. And like just the fact that they could not keep it together at this sound bath. As I've said before to Craig, this is my absolute favorite thing when like parties are ruined by absolutely absurd fighting. So I like, really enjoyed it. And there was this moment when they were talking, and I think Whitney had just said, "Everyone please be quiet," speaking specifically to them. And you could see them both stop for a second. But Monica had just gotten the last word, and you see this like look on Lisa's face. She's like, "Monica, you just acting crazy." And she just couldn't stop herself. You just see it coming out of her. And I just thought that was beautiful. And I found Angie's involvement in this little situation was really odd. And I really want your take on that, Craig, because she kept saying like, "I feel so uncomfortable. I'm just in the middle of this, guys." Like,
I know.
But you could walk away. No one needs you here. So I guess it was just like getting scene time. But I thought that was so weird because she was just kind of there, and we didn't need her. But I mean, it was kind of fun that she was forcing herself into that. So I loved it all.
Yeah, I was kind of confused why she was sticking around there as well. My gut is always to be like, oh, because Housewives is such an information game. It's like, she wants to be there to see like what comes out, or if there's going to be something that's going to impact her, or someone like spews out something that she has said and like spills the beans on some shit talking that she's been doing. But it doesn't seem so far in the season that she really has any like secrets that she's kind of protecting that Lisa and Monica could potentially, ruin. So I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right, Sandy. I think it was just to be like to have some screen time, and so that she wasn't just like awkwardly milling about, because there wasn't anyone else there from the cast aside from Whitney, who was busy.
What does Whitney think? Like, imagines like, oh, this is what they think is important, not this whole jewelry event, which again is a set for this fight. It's like, and she just has to stand there and take it, and everyone in the room is like, okay, let it go, let it happen. This is the scene.
That is, and there's a lot of pretty fake events that things happen at. So,
okay.
I feel like Whitney probably loves it. Whitney just loves chaos. That's one of the things I appreciate about her is, she is an agent of chaos and is constantly manipulating people to do her bidding. She's actually, I think, one of the only cast members on Salt Lake City that has that kind of calculated like chess player's mentality when it comes to approaching like being a housewife. She seems like she's the most calculated of the whole group. So I think that she would love it. I mean, it's more screen time for her brand. Like, I don't think she cares as much about the people in the room as the people at home. And, that fight guaranteed that this event is going to be shown. It's not just going to be, a flashback to this party that she had that they're referencing at some point. So I feel like she was, she obviously had to seem displeased, but I think she ultimately would be pretty satisfied with that.
Okay. She left like rubbing her hands like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Sandy, did you have any other highlights from Salt Lake City?
No, I don't think so. I'm good.
Cool.
What about you, Craig?
I think we covered most of like what I wanted to talk about. I thought that the relationship that Whitney has with her daughter is it was just a really sweet scene of her kind of like watching her daughter like grow up in a moment, like going through this glam process. I thought it was just a very like short aside, but I really loved seeing that, especially because I think we're getting a lot of dimension to Whitney as a character this season. We're seeing her trying to balance, her husband going back to work with, and her like role as like assuming a lot more household responsibility, and that just kind of falling into her lap and being undiscussed with Justin, and him not really putting a lot of thought into just what gets put on her plate, while also trying to launch a new brand. And being a Real Housewife, a reality person, is a job, and being in season. So I think that we are seeing we're getting a lot of layers to Whitney, and I just appreciated seeing that because I don't know. I feel like Whitney is very underrated. She's like my favorite on this cast, but I think that that's not really a sentiment that's shared across the fan base. So being able to see kind of a more well-rounded character evolve with Whitney is something that I appreciated.
Is she in more of the other episodes? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Whitney, I was just going to say, I think
like. No, Whitney's a presence throughout the show, but I think the fan base seems mostly a little like lukewarm. No one's like calling for her to be off the show, really, but I also don't see her referenced as being one of like the marquee housewives here, like the stars of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It seems to be like it was like the Lisa Barlow show, and I mean, prior to this season, it was the Jen Shaw show because like she was an icon, and now she's in jail. So, but yeah, I think that Whitney has kind of like flown under the radar. So I'm liking seeing her kind of get a more elevated profile this season.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's move on. Did you want to talk about Beverly Hills or Miami next, Zach?
Well, whichever y'all lead the way. I'm just here. I'm just riding the wave.
All right, yeah, let's jump into Beverly Hills. This is the one I'm most excited to talk about. Zach, what were your highlights from Beverly Hills?
Well, there was the centerpiece, the Magic Mike show. Although I guess it was kind of the Sutton show, I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe against her will. I think, I guess there's this question. Did she leave because she was offended, or did she leave because, well, why was she offended? Was she offended by the sexual acts, or was she offended by not being chosen? I don't know her well enough to know if she is telling the truth and it's just because the head and the crotch kind of moved. Did he rub or was he just kind of like down there? Was he just near it? I forget.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like in stunt fighting where you have to like, if you're punching, you're kind of like punching across the axis between the camera. And yeah, it was stunt kind of lingus, I guess.
Gotcha.
What was going on there?
Yeah, that was too much for her.
Yeah.
So
as an outsider, what was your gut? Like, what do you think was Sutton's motivation?
I don't know. I guess, God, I don't know. Like, well, I mean, they muddy the waters because then afterwards she's like saying like, I want to have sex twice a day, and I've got all these sex toys, and I'm reading the tantric book on sex. She's reading like, what's the name of it? The Kama Sutra and shit. Like,
yeah.
What do you like? It felt like almost a joke or something, like a setup and a payoff. It's like, oh, that's disgusting, but also watch me like masturbate. It's like, what the hell? Not that she does that, but so yeah, I don't really know what to take away from it. I mean, it seems unlikely that she was just upset for not getting taken down, but. And I guess like it was also the reputation thing. She was like, would a ballet board member or whatever, be seen doing this kind of thing? Which in the third Magic Mike, there's a great performance at the very end where a ballet dancer is with Channing Tatum and do this amazing act in like water and they're sliding around and shit. So ballet dancers can be seen in that environment. It's all right. Not that she's the dancer, but whatever. But yeah, so I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Sandy, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
I think she maybe a little of both. Clearly, she had some sort of interest in getting involved in this show, but it also may have overwhelmed her, and perhaps she was feeling a combination of some disappointment and guilt at that very disappointment that made it manifest in that exact way. I wonder what the that she's on the board of felt about her naming them several times. Probably didn't help with the reputation, but, or no, I shouldn't say that, but the very concern she had. I guess that she's a complex character. And what I can say about her is she's acting authentically, and is not strategically here. So what we're seeing is real, whatever, I think, at least. I don't know. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, this was my favorite thing on Bravo this week, was seeing this portrait of Sutton that we got. I thought it was amazing. And, you know, I think that this, as a fan of Sutton, like as a housewife that I want to root for, I don't think this was a particularly great episode. And that's mostly because of the scene that we got early on where she's kind of like bossing around her assistant and not like handling things well. I think that paints her in a very like negative light. And it was interesting, the choice to include that leading up to this this fit that we got. But I think the journey that we've gotten for Sutton's character this season so far has been like, she's clearly looking to reinsert herself into the dating scene. But ultimately what was going on here, it felt like she had a big decision that she was making during this episode. And that was, do I wear the pants, or like, do I not wear the pants? And it was really like, do I go out in something that I'm going to feel like comfortable in and like feel more like I'm in my skin, or do I put the pants on because I want to get on stage? And she was trying to make a decision in terms of which is like, where how is she going to feel most desired? Like, it was like, am I going to feel more desired if I'm going out in like clothes that I'm comfortable in, that I feel confident in, or if I wear something where I've got the opportunity to get pulled on stage and like be worshipped, to use a word that you use in your video essay, by the performers on stage in the Magic Mike. And I think she made this decision and immediately kind of like regretted it when she wasn't one of the first people to get pulled up, and then was completely embarrassed and feeling rejected and undesired. And we see her like curl up into like a ball and and self-destruct because people start asking her, oh, what's wrong? And that just like kind of makes things worse. It just piles on. Like, she feels like people know that she's uncomfortable and she has to come up with some sort of answer for it. And, she just she reaches into her back pocket and like pulls out like the prudish response of, thinking that this is below me as like a Southern,
Southern belle.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that she realized afterwards that, she's going to come off as prudish, and that's not who she really is, or that's not the journey that she wants to be seen as being on. And that's not the character that she wants to be. And she immediately like goes hard in the other direction, takes a like complete left turn. And that's when she starts bringing up all of the like, I've got all these sex toys and I've been like reading all these books, and, leans hard in the other direction. I think that that's why it felt like you get whiplash trying to figure out what she was going through. But this journey was like so complicated and like so emotional for her that I just thought it was very like compelling, and I did feel sympathetic. But that is definitely undermined by how she treated her assistant at the beginning of this episode. It like does not set you up to be sympathetic towards her.
Right. Well, I think her and Kyle going at it, like, I mean, they were both, I guess with what you've just said about Sutton, it makes me feel more sympathetic, even if she was kind of mean to her assistant. But they're sort of going back and forth, and like they're both like kind of misreading each other. Like, I guess, Kyle is saying that Sutton is making a big deal out of this. And like, she really wasn't. Like, I mean, by virtue of the fact that you're a Real Housewife on a show, like your emotional reaction, unfortunately, like is an action, you know, like even if it is just kind of like walking out of a place. Like she didn't, I don't think she told anyone to come with her. She wasn't like, let's get out of here, guys. This sucks. She just left by herself, as she says.
Right.
So Kyle is kind of misreading that. But Kyle is saying, like, you just said it was about your reputation, and like Sutton is like denying it, like moments after having said these sorts of things. So yeah, it was definitely confusing. But I think, given what you just said, it kind of makes more sense that Sutton is just grasping, you know, and like trying to keep face basically after all that. So I think I was a little, you know, being a little harsh, but you know. Yeah,
it's interesting because we don't see it in this episode, but Kyle is definitely going through her own journey with her relationship, her long-term relationship with her husband, Mo. And it does seem like she's being very opportunistic to like pounce on Sutton and, you know, make a big deal out of this. I don't know what is fully motivating that, you know, antagonistic approach that she's taking with Sutton, but that also did stand out to me for sure.
Yeah, it felt like kind of making a mountain out of a molehill, like on Kyle's side. It's like, just let her go and not enjoy it. Like it could have been fine, you know, but that wouldn't have made for as interesting TV, I realized. So
yeah, and Kyle's approach to it was like, I don't know, it brought out in me as a viewer, like it was definitely like borderline bullying. Like she would not drop it, and she was like joking about it. And, you know, I laughed while watching it because it was humorous how she was like drilling into it. But like to, in retrospect, be like, oh yeah, she made me feel like one of the mean girls by like going in and like clearly just like laughing at someone that's prodding at someone that is having a hard time. You know, that's an emotion that I had to resolve at the end of watching that scene.
Yeah.
Zach, did you have any other highlights from Beverly Hills?
Let me see. Well, I mean, I guess like the final scene where, you know, the being in the hotel, Kyle working out. Apparently that was like, why would you do that? Like they didn't really, you know, it's not a big drama, but they're like, why would you work out on your vacations? Like people do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I don't know why we're talking about this. It's fine. But then Garcelle, you know, bringing up her son. I very little context of what happened with that is brought into this, so I don't really know. But she kind of brings up to the group that she doesn't trust them with her son talking about him, or you know, I don't know exactly what she doesn't trust them with beyond speaking about it. But it did feel kind of to me like this is kind of a weird time to bring this up. Like, and with her kind of argument with who was it that she was kind of Dorit? Yeah. Dorit.
Yeah.
Like I think Dorit is being a bit being kind of not great either, but like if you are only just saying something so that people kind of accept it, it's like that's what she just wants people to like acknowledge it. Well, it's like, oh, well then I guess you can just say it and then we'll move on. I don't know. Like, what are you supposed to do with like, oh, I don't trust you guys with my kids.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to go get drinks? Like, what do you like? How do you react to that? You know, like that is some pot stirring kind of stuff. It feels like I don't know what reaction you're going to get that you're going to be satisfied. I guess besides
that's
like
true. Yeah.
I'm sorry and I'll do better, which like Dorit kind of maybe tried, but obviously was pretty defensive. So it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't wholehearted or anything.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Dorit was like, oh, I already paid for that. Like, I already bought that. I already gave you what you wanted for that. And now you're trying to like get more out of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes because it definitely seems like they're at like an emotional deadlock here. But yeah, that didn't even register to me that, you know, what is Garcelle trying to get out of this interaction? Like, why bother bringing that up?
Yeah, it just felt like we need a little more for this episode. Come on. Just say,
true.
I don't know. Yeah. Like, I don't know if they tell these people these things, but it felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Sandy, what were your highlights from this?
It was interesting for me to compare sort of the narrative arc of this episode versus Salt Lake City, where this one had this big fight in the middle, and because of how, as you sort of laid out, Sutton's wanting to distance herself from her own behavior, it really ended in a whimper. And the way we can see how Sutton is not strategic, like she's already apologizing to people like 10 minutes after she had this outburst. Like you need to play it out, at least do your apology tour the next episode. Like, so she doesn't think that way. And then Erica is not fighting with anyone anymore. So why are you on the show, Erica?
Yeah.
So I was very disappointed. It sounds like Erica might be a little catty next episode. So we'll see about that whole thing. But it just really it was interesting. And then it just deflated. And I didn't really find the rest of the episode that interesting. Whereas Salt Lake City had a really good build. And I kind of started thinking it was a little dull, and it ended really well. So that was kind of interesting to observe. And yeah, bit of a letdown. So
I will say, Erica did show off her immense flexibility in her legs.
She did do that.
Does she perform herself? Like, why isn't she doing this? Why isn't she on the Magic Mike
She
show?
does. She's a pop star.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes, star is like using that term a little loosely. But,
okay.
Yeah, but I do want to talk about Erica, because this was very weird as someone who has watched the show to see how Erica handles Sutton's tantrum at her event. It was very uncharacteristic. Erica's scrappy. Like, she will fight when the bell rings. So it was very strange, and I couldn't help thinking about that scene that we got. Well, I don't know if it was last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago in the premiere, where Erica's with her therapist, and her therapist was trying to explain to her what empathy was. And it was, I was like, oh, maybe she does have some sort of I don't know. It seemed like a character trait that she was just okay, I'm just going to turn off the fighting part of me. I'm just not gonna engage with things, and it almost makes me view any of her previous interactions as though they weren't emotionally motivated, that she fakes having emotions, because we have seen her pour on the fake tears, and when she seems emotional, it does seem very put on. But the fact that recently she seems very confused at the concept of having empathy, and for her to just be able to turn off that emotional switch and be like, okay, well, that's not going to bother me because I'm just not fighting right now, then I'm not doing that. It does make me feel very I feel like I'm watching almost a robot or something that's programmed to interact in these situations.
She's just building up. You know what I mean? You got to be like the Zen monk. It's nothing bothers me. And then something bothers her. And she's like, it is my time to fight. And then it'll be a clash of the Titans. Episode 10. Watch out for that one.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I think that covers most of what I've got on Beverly Hills. Let's talk about Real Housewives of Miami. Zach, what were your thoughts on this cast?
Let me see. I don't feel like I have a strong feeling on the. I mean, Gertie is going through a lot. So, I mean, that moment, where she talks about her breast cancer is I don't even know her, and I'm like, oh my God, this is hard to watch. That was a real genuine moment, which was I don't feel like I've ever experienced that in a reality television show. Mostly because these people are themselves, and they actually, I mean, they're getting robbed, they're doing movies, they're going to jail apparently, and they can get cancer, and it's reality is seeping in, you know?
Yeah.
And so you definitely feel for her there. So that was kind of the main thing. Like, I don't know, there's the gay brunch. Might have been fun. We didn't see a ton of that. Let me see. Larsa likes her husband. Yeah, it was mostly Gertie. I guess that was like the centerpiece of this.
Yeah, definitely. I thought like Gertie obviously is the most like emotionally compelling piece of this entire episode. I thought that the way that it was presented, I don't know how I felt about how it was like cut together, because it, like you said, it was very emotional and very like real. The way that it was kind of intercut with the brunch where they were speculating about you know, what's going on with Gertie and her health, I could have probably done with that being treated another way. It was just like too adjacent to a very like emotionally weighted conversation. And I actually think that Bravo typically, when they are dealing with heavy subject matter, they do a fairly good job of handling it. And this was, I don't know, it definitely like, because of the proximity of the scene where they're, you know, speculating on Gertie's like what's going on, and someone is like, oh, you know, I hope it's not something with her health, and then, you know, immediately getting this reveal, I thought that it almost played too much as a plot point.
They're definitely going in hard on the irony, right? Like what you just said. And then like at the end with her fight with who is it?
Larsa.
Larsa. Yeah, like she doesn't reveal why she's sad. And Larsa's just like, should I cry too? It's like, if you just knew, like, you know, and like it's like next episode, I'm sure we're gonna get that reveal. But it's like, yeah, they're definitely playing with the irony of like of people not knowing. Which might be a little callous for breast cancer.
Yeah, and I think like, so they did release a preview of like the first 7 minutes of the next episode. And so I do think that reveal is out there. I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen just, you know, the reaction on social media. And it seems like Larsa does not have a very comforting response to it. It could be that the scene that we got prior to that was trying to like foreshadow this, you know, this perspective that some of the women are going to have over the course of the season towards Gertie as a result of this. I'm curious to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
Sandy, what were your highlights from?
Yeah, I was just going to build on the like the Gertie and Larsa thing. Like Larsa really came off as an asshole in that last scene, and it honestly was hard to watch because, you know, like I wouldn't have told her either if she's talking to me like that. So it felt very real, and I'm not a Larsa fan. I don't know what the general population thinks of her. I think they think she shouldn't be dating a younger man, which I don't have a comment on that. I don't care about that. But anyway, well, she didn't seem like a great friend.
I think the criticism of Larsa's relationship isn't like so much about the age difference. It's that it's Michael Jordan's son, and she was previously
what the fuck?
Like she was previously married to Scottie Pippen, who was Michael Jordan's line mate on the Bulls. So I think that's where a lot of the criticism is.
Someone said that
it's kind of iconic.
Yeah, I support that. I don't have a problem with that. One of those little clips said something like, this child that you used to babysit. And I don't know if that was used rhetorically or actually, but if actual, then that's, you know, even more iconic. She gives me a bad vibe though. So anyway, and then I was on a very much more superficial criticism of those two scenes being cut together, the brunch and the happy hour. How is a brunch and a happy hour happening at the same time? It's who has messed up their times very badly, or it's not happening at the same time. And thus why do this whole thing where it seems like it's happening at the same time? So that annoyed me.
Because it's cool. Because it's storytelling, you know, it kind of impressed me. I was like, I don't think I've seen like two conversations so perfectly intercut where it's kind of like, like the thoughts lead to each other, what they're talking about. So
yeah,
it did. Like I said, Miami, like the people who are making that show are going fucking hard. Like,
yeah.
God, all the light, the color effects, and the transitions and stuff.
I feel like that's mandatory for Miami. That was like, it's like CSI Miami. So much color.
They need to start with the same song where he like takes off his sunglasses. Or I was like, is that the Who or is that? Probably Bob O'Reilly. Is it Bob O'Reilly? Anyway,
I think it's Bob O'Reilly on the Miami one. They're all different Who songs, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think we covered most of what I wanted to talk about with Miami as well. I really the other thing that I wanted to talk about was Adriana, when she's talking about Todd and Alexia's relationship and this party that they were at. I just love what Adriana does. She does not give a fuck. She is all about the housewife game. She doesn't give a shit who she's like gonna piss off or like, poke and prod. She just wants to stir shit up, and I love it. I think for her to be like, oh, Todd, it looks like you and Alexia are going to have to like set some time to work on your relationship or something like that. That is like one thing. That is like, that is great, like housewifeship, like, but then to bring that back to a group, just put it out there that she said it and release that information and just like not give a shit about like who sends it back to Alexia. She just wants it out there. She wants to cause chaos. And I love it. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do we believe it? Do we believe Todd said right on the nose?
Yeah. There's no way that he said right on the nose. It's definitely like bullshit. But the fact that she is like so confidently sowing chaos and, she just like kind of made peace with Alexia by showing up at a brunch waving a white flag of surrender, and then to immediately come and commit an act of war is so brazen.
Yeah, she's good. She deserves to be a full housewife.
Yeah, totally. I think that about covers it. Did you guys have any other final thoughts on Miami?
One other thing is I am super into a housewife being overly obsessed with their new partner. So I love that for Larsa, especially because I'm not a huge fan of her. So she's having a welcome back party after he was gone for a week. And this is giving me like Sheena with Rob, whatever his name was, vibes from Vanderpump. So I'm excited for that.
I wonder how fast that Michael Jordan's son can put up a TV.
We'll have to find
7
out.
minutes.
I'm sure it's 6.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Zach. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
If you go on YouTube, you can look up Zach Frazier, ZAC space FRAZIER. I have some videos up there, kind of gaming focus mostly. Like the Magic Mike video is kind of an anomaly, to be honest. But there's that, and then Twitter, ZC_FRZR. I don't tweet a lot because Twitter is what it is right now and makes me sad. But those are kind of the bigger places, and then Instagram. That's kind of a personal thing, but if you want to see photos I take, sure, look up Zach Frazier on Instagram. Why not? But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sandy, how about yourself?
I'm on Instagram at Corporeal Curios.
Well, that's Bravo Outsider for this week. I'm Craig Midwinter. If you want to look me up, you can. I don't know, add me on LinkedIn or like follow my GitHub or something like that. You're not going to find much interesting. But you can find Bravo Outsider on pretty much every social media at Bravo Outsider. Subscribe to us on YouTube or leave us a rating and a review. That helps us out a ton. Until next week, keep on wifing.